Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, barely, but we have a quorum. Excuse us, Mr. Farkas, just giving you a hard time. We do have a schedule that's kind of compressed for all of us up here. We thank you for accommodating us last week. As you remember, we realize that no matter what our planning is, transportation can still be made an issue by things outside of our control. Just to put everybody on notice, if you look on the overhead, there is an agenda that is different than the agenda that was prepared from last week with regard to 7A. The spine project from Colorado Springs, which is the former 7A, has been pulled off. That will be revisited later. Otherwise, my understanding is that the agenda is exactly the same. So, now that we have a quorum, I move for approval of the agenda that is exhibited.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Review and approval of the minutes from the February 13, 2019 meeting. Does anybody have any comments about those minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That has been approved. The Citizens Advisory Committee monthly report.
Did you skip public comment?
Oh, we did. Public comment. It's not on the agenda. We are going fast. Anybody have any public comment? It doesn't look like everybody's an official here. So, all right, now we'll go with the Citizens Advisory Committee report.
Thank you. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Our meeting back on March 6th. First, I'd like to compliment the city and Ryan Phipps for the presentation on the downtown project around the museum, Sierra Madre, and that area. I think we see these things come through piecemeal. Seeing the big picture of where we're going, the vision, what's happening, really helps understand why things are coming to us the way they are. It was a great presentation, so I'd just like to make sure that they get credit for that. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
You want to take care of that, Mike and Corey? Let them know that how good they've done. Yes.
The city brought forth a request for line item transfer for the Cottonwood Creek Bridge Rehabilitation Project. The committee recommended approval of that line item transfer. The city also brought forth 9 contracts for approval. We discussed each one of those. Item number 2 on your list, the citywide traffic safety operations, Vermejo and Sierra Madre. The committee voted to extract that from the list and take a separate vote on that. It was 9-7 in favor of that. I can't give you a good reason why that happened, other than there is and this will come back to you in months to come, a discussion of capital versus maintenance money for that project. But in the end, it was recommended approval for that project. But it was bifurcated from the list and voted on separately. So that's the reason you see that thing there. Then the other thing was in the legislative report, we put together, we as a committee recommend that you guys support, as a board, support that amendment, Senate Bill 19051. So you'll see that in your, we think that's a great bill, and we just encourage that that you guys support that. Other than that, I think that was really all the major items from the CAC.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Godfrey? I do. Ms. Avila.
It's on. Oh, wait a minute. That's not.
What bill could you get a little more detail about what bill that you wanted us to support? Just the one you finished with.
Yes, it is Senate Bill 19051. It's the dedication of additional state general fund money to transportation, where they were recommending taking money out of the general fund to support transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Godfrey? Yes.
Okay.
Could I make a comment from the other side in that issue over item number 2? And the comment is, there are a lot of us that are feeling uncomfortable. We have no say over how the city uses maintenance money. But they have asked in this particular request, the presentation you're going to get just a little later, so I maybe should have waited for that. But I want to direct you to the back page of that presentation, which gives you a breakdown. And it's not clear, but it's clear to me. First of all, we gave $3.5 million for a bridge. And I promised a fellow board member or CAC member that I would not say anything more about it. It's a done issue. But it's interesting to me if you look at the 2018 through 24, or 2015 through 24 thing, there was nothing in there about a bridge. So they took the $3.5 million out of connecting bike trails. Then they took, in this particular presentation, they're taking money. Whether it's capital or maintenance is a question that we're going to have discussion next month or two, and it will come before you. But in this particular thing, they have asked for $4,400,000 on top of $3.5 million coming from PPRTA. If it's capital, we've already been hoodwinked, and I'm now talking from many comments that have come from the community. I attend an awful lot of town hall meetings and the like out in the county. When I say that, we as members of the CAC, more specifically those that are in the county, see or perceive that it's not necessarily being spent the way it should be. The city is taking money out of, according to this, the citywide improvements intersection, which is capital, is only $400,000 out of that $4.4 million. But in this same presentation, they asked for $1.2 million for citywide safety and traffic operations, and that's listed as maintenance. And then $2,800,000 coming out of their operations and maintenance. But that's $4.4 million on top of 3.5 already. So we're close to $8 million. And there's nothing on it. And nobody can tell me, from personal experience, okay, that putting in a brand new intersection because we're going to reduce a highway or a section of road, and this is Vermejo, and it's been in the city's plans, they're safe and not mine, for 25 years. That is not just one, but that's two. PPRTA 1, PPRTA 2. Basically, I think they're obfuscating.
Yeah, and just to clarify, were these issues addressed in the debate when it was, and I see Mr. Godfrey nodding, that these were the issues that were discussed by CAC with the staff?
Yes, this was the discussion and basically the separation, and it was the maintenance versus capital issue, in that it's more than putting in curbs and gutters. That's virtually building a new road, taking it all down, building it back up, pedestrian mall, this, that, and another. So that was a large part of the discussion.
And CAC approved the request on the 9 to 7?
Correct.
Are you talking in the mic there?
I'm sorry, and CAC approved after the debate, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
So my clarifying question, so the $4.5 million more is for the Vermejo project or for the bridge?
No, it is for the intersections that are going to be affected by, quote, building a new pedestrian mall, basically. You're reducing, Vermejo, and the intersections they are going through.
Right.
And
There's a breakdown of the funding, and so this is, there's other sources of funding going into this. So we just addressed the RTA piece of it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other further questions or clarification for that?
I'll move the acceptance of the report.
Second?
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The Citizens Committee monthly report has been approved, and now it's mysterious, Bev. Is it good, no, or bad to this month?
Well, good afternoon. So we received for January, $7,913,000, and that's $668,000 above the monthly budget, or 9.2%. So we're starting the year out pretty good there. And on page 2, compared to last year, January, we're ahead $345,000, or 4.6%. The page 3, 4, and 5, there's only one thing I want to point out, is on page 4, about three-quarters of the page down, under Transit Capital, ADA paratransit bus system vehicle replacement. It looks as though it's over budget by $38,000, but you may recall that in the budget, the member government staff estimates their carryover by each line item. And they estimated practically nothing in the carryover there in that budget, because the budget itself, or the carryover, ends up being from 2018, $259,000. So that covers the cost here of the $248,000. And you'll see that in the amended budget where the actual carryover comes into the budget, and then that line item will be within budget. Just in case you look at this later and you think that it's over budget. So any questions?
Thank you.
Oh, and then I put at your places, this worksheet is the 2019 amendment with the 2018 revenue calculation. And you can see that the sales and use tax net of collections is $4,649,000 over. Interest earnings for 2018 are $1,681,000 over, and the administrative savings are $241,000 for a total of $6,571,000 of revenue carryover from 2018 to 2019. So then it's broken down by capital, maintenance, and transit. In the capital portion, which is what we've been discussing every month, of $3,614,000 will go to CDOT for the I-25 gap.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bev. All right. The 2019 capital maintenance and public transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs first. Southwest downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on.
I'm terrible with names. Please introduce yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm Ryan Phipps, City Engineering. I'm
Right.
trying to find the presentation.
You're a good engineer.
I know, I'm terrible with that technology. Still picture both.
Getting the
That's
presentation
okay.
loaded up.
That's
so-
all right. And I would remind you to please verbalize what's on the screen for Ms. Avila.
Absolutely.
This is for informational.
Mm-hmm.
So next time I do a approval.
No, this is informational.
Actually approval.
First one is informational, and then the next two.
Perfect.
So-
Thank you.
There we go. All right.
So is this then part of the?
We'll figure it out.
All right, we'll start from the beginning. My name is Ryan Phipps. I'm with City of Colorado Springs City Engineering Group, and I am here to speak with you about a couple projects that we're bringing contracts and change orders forward this month. These are two projects in the southwest downtown area. And the presentation at CAC took about an hour. I understand that this entire agenda is supposed to take an hour, so I'm going to try to move quickly through. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to stop. But I will be trying to move quick, so if I overlook something that you're interested in hearing more about, please let me know. Oh, I did that last time. How do I... Okay. All right, so this is an aerial view of southwest downtown looking to the west. These are the county administration buildings, county garage, courthouse, looking straight down Vermejo towards America the Beautiful Park. This is what the site currently looks like. Over the past 25, 30 years, the City of Colorado Springs has had a number of different planning studies that have identified objectives for downtown Colorado Springs, and most recently the Experience Downtown Master Plan identifies Vermejo as a signature street. I'm just going to take a quick moment. If you look on the image here, they've got Vermejo and Tejon in red, and that's just to indicate it's a higher level experience. It's something more than just a road or a street. The plan is for Vermejo to be a place and to be able to, you'll see on there's this connection point to connect over into the park. The difference between Tejon and Weber, other than the colors, is just keep in mind whenever you go downtown, you have an opportunity to go to Tejon and mill around. It's an actual place. It's not just a street. Weber, I don't want to get anyone upset that's on Weber, but Weber is a street. If you have an intention of visiting someplace along Weber, you go there, you park, you do your business, and you leave. Whereas a place like Tejon, it might be a place where you would visit several businesses. Or in Old Colorado City, it's a place where you would park and visit several places, right? So that's the intent behind Vermejo, is that it is a place and not just a street. The two projects that I'd like to talk with you about here are, first, the pedestrian bridge. It connects the America the Beautiful Park over to the new Olympic Museum that's currently being constructed, and then the Vermejo and Sierra Madre reconstruction and streetscape project. And we have that divided into several pieces. The first piece is the water quality vault that's going in on Sierra Madre. The second piece is sanitary and sewer or water work that's running up and down Saguache. This is CSU's involvement in this project. The limit of that is Colorado on the north and Moreno on the south. The reconstruction of Vermejo and Sierra Madre. The limits of Vermejo are from Sierra Madre on the west over to Tejon on the east. And then Sierra Madre's limits are from Cimarron on the south to Cacharis on the north. And then the final phase is streetscaping, which is everything that is behind the curb and gutter on Vermejo and Sierra Madre. So that's your sidewalks, your trees, your plantings, landscaping, things of that nature. This is an image of the museum and the bridge and how they tie together. The east end of the bridge ties directly into the top landing of the museum. You have a direct connection right into the entrance of the museum at that point, and also the cafe. The west end will land you right across the street from America the Beautiful Park. This is, I think, the best image that we have. It's just well done. But I hope that you can understand this, providing the pedestrian connection at this point is not only providing the gateway from Pikes Peak Greenway and America the Beautiful into downtown, but it also provides access from downtown into the museum or into the park. Now, people that are visiting the park aren't having to find a handful of parallel spots alongside the park, along Camino. There is now much greater opportunity for parking, especially for large events, on the other side, the east side of the railroad tracks, and then just walking across the museum and landing directly across the street from the park. This is the rendering that's most accurate of what the final bridge is proposed to look like. The difference between this one and the previous image is it has this perch, this overlook on the west end of the bridge. It's about 25, 30 feet off of the ground. We have to clear the railroad tracks by about 24 feet per their requirements. And so clearing that and ending up on the west end here, you have an amazing view from this point. This is a place that I'd expect that visitors to Colorado Springs and even natives would really appreciate the background of taking your photograph here. Behind you is the entire America the Beautiful Park, the Julie Penrose Fountain, and then Pikes Peak framing everything. And the architects for the bridge and for the museum have been very conscientious of that view. And standing at the end of that perch is really going to be an incredible place to stand and take in all that is happening in downtown Colorado Springs at this point. One thing I'd like to point out on this image is the elevator. So in order to get up and down that 25, 30 feet of grade difference between the street and the bridge, you have the option of taking the stairs, which is 3 flights of stairs. And the first time I came to Colorado Springs, I was out of breath going up 3 flights of stairs. So you have the elevator as an option. And the elevator is oriented so that you go in one side and out the other. This is exceptionally helpful if you're pushing a stroller, a bike, in a wheelchair. Anything that has wheels, going in one side and out the other is far easier than going in and having to back out, turn around, do a 4-point turn. So we wanted to make that as convenient and easy as possible. Go ahead and move to the next slide. This next slide is a higher aerial type image showing a trail going down around the cafe on the east side of the bridge. We're currently working with the landscape architects for the museum to see if we can't extend that trail, actually continuing it north all the way to Cacharis and Sierra Madre, because both Cacharis and Sierra Madre are intended to have bike lanes on them. So we actually could land that bike trail right at an intersection of bike lanes. We feel like that would be a useful place to pick cyclists up. This is a view through the cafe and the museum looking west. You can see the architecture of the bridge, the Penrose Fountain in the background, and then Pikes Peak. It's like I said, the architects have worked really hard to kind of frame this view with architecture and blending architecture and the natural beauty of Colorado Springs in this area, the Pikes Peak region. The railroad is not terribly excited about us building a bridge over top of the railroads. They won't let us shut the railroads down for an extended period of time. And so the alternative that we are looking into, and this is the plan, is actually to construct the bridge about 3-4 feet off of the ground, off-site. So it will be somewhere in the vicinity of America the Beautiful Park, probably on the gravel lots that are used as parking from time to time. We'll construct the bridge there. We'll bring it in 6 pieces, structural steel pieces, assemble it, finish all the steel assembly, concrete, as much finished work as possible, and then we'll use one of these red tractors with numerous axles, one on each end of the bridge. We'll use it to pick the bridge up and then move it across the railroad tracks and set it on its abutments. That's going to be a pretty exciting move. We're planning on that in April, May of 2020. This is the overview of the limits for the streetscape project. So again, Sierra Madre from Cimarron up to Cacharis, and then Vermojo from Sierra Madre near the museum all the way to the east, the Pioneers Museum. And that's really an important connection. Again, we're creating a place, and this connection between really the history of Colorado Springs, the Pioneers Museum, the icon for many, many years of Colorado Springs, connecting it to America the Beautiful Park and the new U.S. Olympic Museum. I think that connection is really important, and so that's how those 3 blocks are determined, and to really create that seamless pedestrian connection from Tejon, which is an activated corridor, over to the museum, and then crossing the bridge into America the Beautiful Park, which really is a park that could be better utilized if we give it better access and we put people closer to the park itself. So the theme of the design of Vermejo, I don't have slides to talk about Sierra Madre. I'll just quickly address that. Sierra Madre is a 3-lane section on the south, a 2-lane section as you get north of Castilla. It has bike lanes and parallel parking, has the rows of trees and widened sidewalk on both sides. Vermejo takes a lot of those same elements. It is only going to be 2 lanes of traffic. There's not going to be a center turn lane on Vermejo. There's a lane of parallel parking on each side of the street. There's no bike lanes on Vermejo. A couple reasons for that. One, we'll get into a little bit more, but Vermejo is intended to be closed down from time to time for festivals, and it seems better to have a bike corridor, a transportation corridor, to be outside of a street that you intend on closing. Also, this is an area where vehicles and pedestrians are really all moving fairly slow, and so cyclists could either be in traffic with cars going slower, or be on these widened pedestrian areas where there's plenty of room for bikes and cars and pedestrians to mix. The alignment of Vermejo is such that the street is actually moved to the southern half of the right-of-way. So on the south half of the right-of-way, you have your 2-lane roadway with 2 lanes of parallel parking, and then you have landscaping and a widened sidewalk to the south of the road. Vermejo itself is a very wide right-of-way, and so we end up, by doing that, we end up having a lot of space north of the roadway in order to do something special. And so that's what's proposed here, is this pedestrian alley, the trees, additional and widened landscaping, and then again another a sidewalk on the outside. This strip from Sierra Madre over to Tejon is focused on the pedestrian experience, so all the lighting is pedestrian scaled. It's intended to actually, the heights of the light are actually intended to be fairly low to the ground compared to what we typically have with the acorn lighting in downtown, and definitely compared to the Cobra Head style lights that are in most of our neighborhoods. The pedestrian scaled lighting on this street is intended to be below the tree canopy, so that when the trees grow up, we have good light under the street, and this is a well-lit and safe area. The trees are another very important element on this street. The urban tree in Colorado Springs has a difficult time. Urban trees have a difficult time really anywhere. They have a fairly short lifespan. They just are not, they don't do well around all this compacted earth. You have compacted earth for roads, you have compacted earth for sidewalk, and usually an urban tree grows in an area like a 5 or a 6 foot square type box. It doesn't give it opportunity to grow out and do what it naturally wants to do. So on this street, because the trees are such an important element, again, providing that desirable experience for the pedestrian walking those 3 blocks from the Pioneers Museum over to the new Olympic Museum and Bridge, we want the trees to grow, to be healthy, to be large, to create a continuous shaded canopy. So in order to do that, we're implementing a design here called the Silvacell. The Silvacell provides structure to the paving on top of it, but it also allows us to put unconsolidated fill within the unit, which allows the trees to behave more naturally. They're allowed to grow out and have that oxygen and water exchange. And so we're anticipating that particular solution will allow these trees to continue to grow and to be large, healthy, and create that canopy that we're looking for. These Silvacells also provide an alternate benefit, and that is they provide water quality for the runoff off of the street. The runoff is collected in the slot drain along the roadway, and then it is channeled into the Silvacells. And so they have the natural process where the trees and all the bugs and goodies that are inside that dirt, they do the natural biological process, breaking down all the stuff that comes off of the roadway. This next image I like to show because the two trees on the left are really the pathway that the pedestrians are primarily walking up and down. The trees on the right are on the other side of the street. However, the area between the row of tree on the far north and the rows of trees on the far south is all seamless. It's a curbless street, so you have asphalt, you have a valley gutter with a slot drain in it, and then you have on the first two blocks is this granite paving. So you have this area that has solid surface, no tripping hazards, and it allows you to create a festival zone between these trees where you can set up tents, you can set up food trailers, things of that nature, all on hard surface, and pedestrians and people visiting these events have the ability to circulate the entire event without tripping on a curb, without going across landscaping. And we're also including a number of receptacles close to the trees so that even power is fairly close to where the tents will be, so that you're not tripping over cords and things of that nature. The Olympic Museum on the east end of the project is designed to support and promote and complement Olympians, but just not Olympians that we most commonly think of, but it's also a celebration of Paralympians. And so we want the entire street, the entire experience to be seamless for all Olympians, Paralympians, regardless of ability, to be able to walk up and down Tejon and experience this in the same manner as anyone else and not have things like curbs and cables getting in the way. And then again, with the festival, again, being between these trees, the outside area still has these widened sidewalks, which allows pedestrian circulation around and through events. So when Tejon gets closed for an event, you're closed from building face to building face, right? And you have the cables everywhere, you've got curbs. This will allow the festival to take place within an adequate area for space, but it allows it to take place within those trees, but then it still allows pedestrian circulation on the outside. So whether you're going east-west on Vermejo or accessing businesses that are contemplated to be built against the faces of these right-of-way, you have that ability, which I think is actually an enhancement over what we currently have in the city of Colorado Springs. This is an image. This is a rendering from the 60% level design of what the streetscape might look like. So you kind of see that tree canopy running along the length of Vermejo east-west. You see that the lights are a little bit lower. They're kind of this pencil shape rather than the acorn shape that we have in downtown, but casting that light down into the pedestrian area for, again, a safe realm for pedestrians. And then you have that landscape. So I think this image shows a little better what I was trying to explain with the previous image, in that the landscaping on the far north and far south row of trees helps create this festival area, and then there is pathways through that landscaping area. Here you see a couple benches and a little bit of gravel breeze type surfacing, but those rows of landscape help to kind of define where the festival event may occur. I think this is my last image of the street. This is down at the museum. This is the intersection of Vermejo and Sierra Madre. This intersection and Saguache are both designed to be at grade, so there are actually no ramps to cross the street. There's tactile warnings to cross the street, but there's no ramps, there's no curb. And so at Vermejo and Sierra Madre, this intersection, in order to help promote the pedestrian experience and to bring awareness to this mixing of vehicles, cars, bikes, this intersection is concrete, so it will be it'll be a contrast to the road. So if you're driving on Sierra Madre, you'll have an obvious visual sign that there is something different going on at this location. That concrete also allows for events. So the concept of the events on Vermejo could be one block is shut, 2 blocks are shut. It could be just this intersection. Maybe there's a big festival at the Olympic Museum. You could just shut this intersection and then use that concrete in the intersection to provide that solid surface, flat and level for your event. So those are the last of my images. I can go back if you have questions. Moving into schedule here, again, we have it broken up. The pedestrian bridge, that contract has already been executed with Kiewit. They're working on all of the steel procurement. It takes a long time, actually, to get structural steel, especially of the sizes that we require for the bridge. So they've been working on that since December. The contract that you will see, or the change order that you will see associated with the Kiewit contract, is really to move from just procuring the steel to going and cutting it, assembling it, bringing it here to Colorado Springs, putting everything together, and moving it into place. The next 4 rows relate to the streetscape work. The first one would be the water quality vault on Sierra Madre. We expect that to take 4 to 6 months. We'd like to get that started as soon as possible and be done towards the end of summer. The relocation of the sanitary sewer work on Saguache, again, we'd like to start that as soon as possible, and we expect that to take about a year. And that is between Moreno, which is just south of the proposed Switchback Stadium, and then all the way north to Colorado Avenue. And what the reason that we're doing the sewer relocation at this point is really 2 main reasons. One, we're in the area doing a ton of work, and then also Saguache is a 2C street, and CSU does utility work ahead of 2C because we don't want to go back and cut our freshly paved roads. And with the planned redevelopment of this area, the planned Switchback Stadium, the sewer that runs those 5 blocks runs right down the middle of the block, and it's very shallow. It's on the order of 4 or 5 feet deep. It's very difficult for any of the proposed buildings that the district is proposing to actually work around that shallow of a sanitary sewer, and then the switchbacks have a plan to create a surface for a ballpark or a soccer field, and it just doesn't work. So CSU is funding that portion to get that work done while we're in the area with a contractor that's aligned with this type of work. The roadway and drainage work is right now limited to Sierra Madre and Vermejo. It is not on Saguache. That's just where the sanitary work is going on. We'd like to get that started as soon as possible. That is the Wildcat contract that's being brought before you. And we anticipate that if we are able to start as soon as possible here, that we would be complete with most of that roadway and drainage work by the end of the year. And then we anticipate the streetscape work. We're currently, the images that you saw are from the 60% set of plans. We just received the 80%. We're moving forward with reviewing those, looking at alternatives, and hope to have 100% here in a couple months. That would be a change order to the Wildcat contract to incorporate that additional work, but anticipating that we would be able to start that middle of this year. We would hope to have it complete by the end of next year. Or middle of 2020. The goal is really to have both these projects complete by middle of 2020. This is an image that shows the district's anticipated development plan. This is something that's been presented at.
You're going to have to.
Okay, sorry. All right.
You're excited, and it's an exciting thing. But yeah.
All right. This is what the district has in mind. This is a slide about private development, $2 billion of investment over the next 20 years, 5 million square feet of mixed-use development. The funding, this is the total cost right now that we're still estimating, we're still finalizing. The bridge itself is trending towards about $17.8 million. The street work is trending towards about $25.5 million, for a total of $43.3 million for the bridge and all of the street work I described. As far as the sources of funds that we've identified for the project at this point, we have a 7.9 in the PPRTA column here. That's the 3.5 that's been approved for use on the bridge. $400,000 that was approved to be used towards the design of the street work. The current contract that you have before you this month is $2.8 million out of maintenance work. We can go into more description if you need to on that. And then we do anticipate that there would be a request for capital funds in 2020 to come up to that $7.9 million to contribute to this project. Colorado Springs Utilities, again, they're covering all of their expenses on this project at about $3.5 million. Stormwater Enterprise, Parking Enterprise have invested funds into the project. The Olympic Museum is contributing to their streetscape improvements of $250,000. And then associated with the financing of the museum, there's about $8.8 million that are available for public improvements associated with these two projects. And then we're anticipating that the Business Improvement District in Southwest Downtown would contribute about $20 million overall to the total project expense. So those are the breakdown of the funds. This is what it looks like now. Again, this is the anticipated look in about 20 years. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
So
for
my
Mr.
question-
Mr.
Okay, so going back to what was previously the $7.9 million, could you go back to where you have the funding dollars? What?
You can look it up.
Okay, so is the 2.8 an increase, or was that already what was presented as being part of the project?
I don't think the full financial picture was presented before. It was kind of bits and pieces. I think what we said was, we came with the bridge of $3.5 million max from the re-rate funds, and I think we had talked in general some of these, but we didn't really have the final numbers. So we had talked that we had said we were anticipating using $2.8 million of street maintenance to help pay for these roadway improvements, on the basis that that's what streets would have put into it if they would have went and just did it now.
Was that in presentations before?
I think I did have a more rudimentary estimate that was not quite as detailed as this, but there was 2.8 identified at the time. The 1.2 was not identified.
Any other questions, Mr.?
This isn't a comment, it's just, I appreciate you presenting this to us. I've been involved in this from the beginning, but this is the most detail I've ever seen. I'm also aware of some of the sanitary sewer issues down there, because some of those pipes under there, they may be only 4 to 5 feet below ground, but some of them are over 100 years old. And so they could collapse if we start driving on them. So I appreciate the work that's doing it. But one of the things that I wanted to bring to attention, there was two things. One, I appreciate the way you presented the bridge. The bridge you had in there in 1992, and that's when the bridge first raised its head to connect to the trail system. And so this isn't a new thing. It gotten to be a lot more fancy than it was from the beginning. But I appreciate that. But the whole design of Vermejo and the access on the bridge is very, very ADA accessible. Every part of it, almost every inch of it, is ADA accessible. And to me, if we're going to have events down there, that's what we need to be designing. And I appreciate your work on that.
And just to, Ms. Williams, you first.
Oh, well, you can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that concerned me is obviously the city just settled a major, we can now talk about it since it's public, that the city was subject to substantial litigation expense for ADA accessibility issues, and a settlement was just achieved. I'm not sure if it has been approved by the court yet, but that was something I assume, as all the planning is going on, you guys were aware of the pending ADA issues, and that's incorporated into this as well. Is that right?
Okay. The big thing is that Puma can go from Vermejo all the way to the training, or to the museum, and not have to go over a curb.
And,
Puma loves
which is very
stuff
good,
like that.
and it's very true, but it's also important because it does recognize the reality of what was going on against the city back then that is now being addressed going forward. Okay, Ms.
Okay,
Williams.
so I'm a little bit confused. Is this an information item, or are we
This
actually
is an
approving
information item at this point.
an item?
correct?
Okay, so we're not actually going in to approve. And does this relate to what Mr. Williams was
Yes,
addressing?
I believe so. yeah.
Okay, so Now that we've seen your presentation, can we ask Mr. Williams to restate what he said?
I'll be
Or if you could just summarize it, Loinos.
Well, no, I can't. And unfortunately, my one criticism is, it says funding, and we spent 18 minutes on presenting Southwest Downtown and 2 minutes on funding. So that's my one criticism on this presentation. We're getting to the part, I think, now that we really need to.
Well, and if Mr. Williams wants to come up and talk about this further, I think, or is there anything that Mike?
Well, I just want to say, and I mentioned this at the CAC last week, was that there has been controversy and disagreement over how we have used maintenance and how we're looking at using maintenance money here versus capital. This is a big project, and we have an old street that we didn't want to go put maintenance money into and then come back and tear it up because we have this plan coming in. So what we are trying to do is combine maintenance money and capital and other RTA, other than other RTA money, to build this right the first time. I did also say that we will be, as the city will make the commitment, that we will be more careful about how we use these funds, and if we want to be creative, and I will come to you guys, but we'll come beforehand and talk about it before we actually come and with a contract and say, hey, please approve this. Right. So we're going to have better communication, better planning in the future so that we can avoid these discussions.
And maybe for me to summarize, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vermaho has not been maintained or improved or repaired for, I think by the notes, 25 years?
I don't think it's had much work done in, if not longer.
And so to maintain at the current level and address the issues that need to be addressed in order for the maintenance of Vermaho to occur, that would be roughly $2.8 million.
Yes.
The plan is this wonderful plan that was presented, and in lieu of doing the planned, maintained maintenance that would be necessary to maintain Vermaho as it currently exists, and then a year from now tear all that up, part of the maintenance is these improvements.
Yes, because since it's no curb and gutter or sidewalk, if we went in there to overlay it, that's considered a reconstruction, and the ADA requires that you bring it up to standards, so we would have to put it curb and gutter and sidewalk and ramps. And so rather than do that beforehand, we decided that it would be better to use the maintenance money and combine it with capital and the district money and build the street the way the city has plans and build it right one time.
Did I understand? I'm not sure if Mr. Godfrey, you raised your hand if you want to come up and address anything.
I just wanted to answer the question about, Mike and I talked about this prior, but this is really the first time that we've gotten a big picture view of the budget. We've gotten $400,000 for this or $3.5 for the bridge, but we never really saw the big picture. So this is the first time that we've got an idea that $7.9 million of RTA money is targeted for this larger concept. So this was the big thing to us, was to see the big picture of the overall plan and how our funding fit into that big piece.
Go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez.
So once again, my question is, what was originally stated as a number as part of this project when this project was presented to the Colorado Springs county commissioners as part of the URA? There was always the Colorado Springs PPRTA portion would be $6 million, $5 million, 7.9. If it was 7.9, then great. What was that number?
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so in 16, we had a summary for the bridge, and at that time, and I said this before the bridge or the street were final design, we had an estimate of about 10.6 for the bridge. There was going to be 7.1 of Olympic Museum tourist bonds to be used, 7.1 million, and then $3.5 million of RTA.
3.5?
Yes, which is the number that we
Right.
Or the bridge only.
For the bridge.
For the bridge.
The bridge, 10.6 for the bridge only. And then, and I'll show you this in a second, and then on Sierra Madre improvements, and I don't know if this was just the basic street, but there was a $5.1 million cost estimate. And they had $250,000.
So something's hot.
Yeah, museum, 1.7 of tourist bonds, 400,000 of RTA capital for the design, and we had identified the 2.8 of maintenance funds. And like I said, that was 3 years ago, very rough estimate. This is closer to what we anticipate needing, and this is where we're landing. So we as the costs were clarified, we needed more money, so we've added the 1.2 to that
So
of
this-
RTA.
I'm sorry.
And go ahead, Ms. You can
Thank
go
you.
ahead. I'm not.
So when we go to vote on this next month, you'll be able to provide us the detail on that, so that we would have that in front of us?
Got the 4 calls in a row.
Well, I think we're actually asking you to approve a contract for the Sierra Madre this meeting.
Today?
Today, that would be.
Okay.
item 3.
And the Sierra Madre
37.
contract is the one that passed 9-7, and the CAC?
The CAC approved at 9-7.
Nice.
Okay. And knowing that it is already a controversial project, why can't the city take it out of its own general funds as opposed to bringing it to us? Because I know I've read about the bridge on Sensible Streets and Smart Spending or SpringsTaxpayers.com, and we've known that already this, at least the bridge portion's controversial. So I would ask why PERTA maintenance as opposed to you taking it out
Well,
of the city?
RTA money is used for street reconstruction and, maintenance and capital. And we have a couple of streets in the area that we are anticipating growth, so we need to improve them. So using the RTA funds, we think, is an appropriate use of the money. It's no different than if we had to improve or expand intersections up in the northeast part of town as it's growing. We need to increase capacity, bring it up to standards. So what I said at the CAC meeting last week was that we're not doing this because the Olympic Museum is going in. We're not doing it for the museum, but this is an area of town that needs improvement. It's going to have growth. So we need to plan for that, just like any other part of town, and that's why we feel the RTA is an appropriate funding source. And the city doesn't have money to throw at it.
Neither does the county.
Well, but this is city portion of the PPRTA.
I've got a comment. Well, I appreciate your dialogue. I was thinking, Jennifer, of an analogy in that when we started West Colorado, didn't we start at 13 million? And look where we are now.
That's the problem.
But there was things that came in that we didn't even know were going to happen, and we've had some of that here too as well. So I understand this escalating a little bit. I think it's not unlike other projects, is my point.
Right.
One more comment. I would just ask that we do a roll call on this vote, please.
On that particular, so we'll take the.
Yeah, we separate it out.
We'll separate it out.
On the contract? Oh, we can do
Yeah,
that.
we can do that.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Then we will take out, what is the contract? Mike, why don't you identify the contract that we just were talking about?
Okay,
We'll
so.
do that first.
All right, so if you go to the contract list that you have, which is, I think we're up next anyway. It is contract, the second one, number 2. That's the Wildcat Construction. So do we want to maybe
So
talk to the other 8?
why don't you talk about, you want to do, let's do
do
the
that.
vote on,
I'd move approval of contract number 2.
I second. Any other additional comments or concerns?
So is that, wait a minute,
What we're doing is we're doing the voice vote on contract 2, which is the Wildcat Construction, which is the contract Michael was just talking about.
okay. Oh, right, and I'm sorry, because I ran out. So does the 4 million include what part of what we were
Well-
talking about previously?
Okay, so we are looking at using a total of $4 million for the Sierra Madre Streetscape project.
To go-
The contract that we're actually asking you to, or the contract amendment, is to approve $384,000 of RTA money for Wildcat to issue the contract, the full contract, and $10.3 million of other funds. And on your memo, you'll see that it's broken down, and we've got $5.8 million of URA bonds and Southwest Business District Improvement for 4.5. To issue the bulk of the contract, but we're asking authorization at this point to use $384,000 of the $4 million for the streetscape.
Okay. Again, so the 4 million, go back, we have that other slide up or not? Well, you had the 3.5, 2.8,
Yeah.
400. So this $4 million represents what of that? It doesn't represent the bridge.
No, it's just,
So it's the 2.8
and the 1.2,
and the 1.2.
and then the 400,000
And the 400,000.
that was used previously
So
for.
I think the issue is, some people have concerns about the 1.2 million, which is above and beyond anything previously discussed. Is that correct?
Well, it's more, yes, it's not above and beyond because the initial numbers that we showed a couple years ago was an estimate. They weren't final. So that's why we're coming to show you where we're at, so that everyone sees a clear picture of where the money's come from and where it's
Right.
going.
So the question is, why is not the URA taking the 1.2? I understand the 400, the 2.8. If it's a cost overrun, why is it not being absorbed by the C4C project? Or the URA, which is everything else, which we've also paid into. Why is that not being absorbed there versus the city?
Vermahoe is not part of the C4C.
Right.
Yeah.
And the 1.2 is not, my understanding is you're going to potentially come back in 2020.
And that's
the
what-
anticipation is that in 2020, that 1.2 is going to be necessary,
Yes.
and we're going to ask for it.
Which you're already asking for it.
Well, we not officially at this point. We're just, again, we want to show you what's coming up. Right now, what we're asking for is $384,000, but at the end of the day, we're looking at $4 million total. So that's what we.
So what the end result will be.
Okay, so we are approving 300,
So right now, you're asking for 384,000, wait, we got
Start the
two
process.
public comments here from the CAC.
Oh, God, I got to read.
Jim Godfrey with CAC. We're kind of combining two separate
Right.
agenda items. This is an informational briefing that gives us an idea of the whole budget. The next item on the agenda is the contract request by the city. The second contract in that list of 9 is for $4 million, and that is what you're asking to pull out. It is simply an increment of that 7.9 estimate at this time. Did I state that properly?
Yeah, and actually, I'm getting flustered here.
Yeah, so
Number 2, we are asking
for $4 million.
$4 million for a while. I was looking at the Kiewit one.
Right.
Too many Southwest things.
So it's just, from the CAC perspective, this is one increment of requesting funding for the overall project of the estimate for PPRTA. That project's a $43 million, almost $44 million project. And so that informational briefing just gave us a picture of the PPRTA as what portion of the overall funding that was. Break, different line item in the agenda is a list of 9 contracts. Number 2 in that you want to bifurcate like we did with the CAC is for $4 million. So that 7.9 is just an estimate of RTA money as part of the overall project.
and I don't know if anybody else wants to clarify, so I'm still kind of confused. I would be very comfortable approving the 2.8, $400,000. I am uncomfortable approving the $4 million when I still have outstanding questions about the 1.2.
Okay, well, yeah, and so let me clarify. I'm saying, contract number 2 is for Wildcat, and it is to award $11 million contract, $4 million of it RTA and 7.9 of the other SWENT and CSU money. So I was referring to the wrong contract.
And can you go back to the slide that showed, the other slide?
Yeah.
The other slide that for real had numbers on it.
Okay. So what we're asking for is approval for $4 million of RTA for the Southwest Streets reconstruction.
2.8 and 1.2.
You understand
Is
that?
that
Yeah.
correct?
Sure.
The 2.8 plus the 1.2.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and at this point, I'm uncomfortable with the 1.2. Can we not approve the 2.8?
No,
And
we
then
need to
do
both.
an amendment?
No, we need to do both because we're trying to issue a construction contract, so we need the 4 million. On top of the 7.9 of other funds, so we can issue a contract and get them going.
Can we vote?
Yeah.
I
Well,
have to leave.
I'm sorry, okay, so I mean, because we come back all the time asking for overages. Why can't we not do it without the 1.2 and then come back in a month and increase it, or 6 months?
Because I,
There's a motion on the table.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, okay.
yeah, that's our
Okay,
request.
yeah, okay.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Mr. Williams.
That 7.9 million, he's adjusted one thing. You mentioned $400,000 we approved for the design of the street. That came out of the original 3.5 million, as my understanding, okay? So he's got another 4 million, or 400,000 in this to total 7.9. That number hasn't changed, but the total, and I'm not questioning Ryan, they got better prices, but it's now 43.3 now. It's still, PPRTA is providing 18% of the total project as a whole, you, the bridge, me, the, whatever it is. That's over 18% of the project cost is being provided by PPRTA, and I would like to refresh somebody's memory because I don't even remember. But we were promised no money would be used to facilitate the City for Champions. And I was with that part to begin. And you can't tell me that that kind of project down on Sierra Madre and that part on Vermejo doesn't specifically be designed for that. And you're cutting the lane of traffic in front of the courthouse as well, which affects the sheriff and the district attorney's office, as well as the courthouse.
Rick?
Two clarifications. The 1.2 million is an increase over what was presented 3 years ago by Kathleen Carter. Number two, the 3.5 for the bridge, Bev and I are tracking that separately. It is not mixed with the street project.
So,
And so the four pieces, the 3.5 for the bridge, the 1.2, which is an increase, the 2.8 and the 4, that's what adds up to the 7.9.
And Mike and Ryan, you've explained why you don't believe that this is City for Champions. This is not funded by the City of Champions from the state.
No.
Fund in any way.
No.
The streetscape component. Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
I'll just make a statement. So I'm still concerned about this. If we'd gotten out in front of West Colorado and put some actual standards and, standing by what people said, we might have gotten a little less over budget. So I would vote yes if this removes the 1.2. I will be voting no if it's at the current motion, which I'm fine with. Thanks.
Then the motion is to approve item 2 on the contract list. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
We've had it
At most for a voice vote. Okay. Ms. Williams?
I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
I just did.
Oh, sorry.
I'm asking for your vote.
I'm not following your parliamentary procedure very well. I vote no.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
No.
Chair votes yes. Ms. Avila?
Yes.
And Nancy?
Yes.
All right. That carries on a 4-2, if my math is right. Okay, so that passes. Then the next,
I have to go.
okay, see ya. And you got to go too.
Okay. Do you want to just do the rest of them?
Does anybody have anything on the remaining 7 contract items that they would specifically want to address?
I move the approval of the remaining 7
Second.
contract items.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 No.
Okay,
Just in principle.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
All
yeah.
right, so that carries 6 to 1.
I respect that.
5 to 1. Well, Miss Avila was still here.
Yes.
6, oh, 5 to 1, okay, thank you. 42, 5, you're right. Okay, my man, why do you have me the chair, right, of numbers? All right. Then, Mike, I think you were going to 7B. The capital projects line item transfer to Academy over Cottonwood Creek, or did we just approve that?
No.
I think we need to.
Okay, so the Cottonwood Creek Bridge, basically, we're asking a transfer from the Dublin project. We had about $1 million of savings there, and we're asking for a $500,000 line item transfer from the Dublin project to the Academy Cottonwood Creek Bridge project. We had some additional work that's outlined in the memo that the structure, the creek improvements to protect the creek were a little more. We estimate $1 million. They actually cost about 1.3. So that's what we're asking for, the $500,000 to finish up the project.
Move approval.
I'll second. Does anybody have any questions on item 7B? Comments? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 6 to 9. All right. You're done?
I'm done for now.
At least for now. 8A, City of Colorado Springs Service, Transit Services Monthly
Do we vote
Report.
on anything else?
Pardon?
We may need to lose a quorum here because Mr. Commissioner Gonzalez has to leave. Is there anything we need to do that we need to vote
Let's take a
on?
look at an approval. Administrative action is the legislative report indicates approval, so if you can wait for a second. Craig.
Sure.
All right, why don't we go with the legislative report? Item 9A.
The one bill that the CAC reviewed last week was Senate Bill 51. That's in your packet. That's the one with one sentence summary that mandates the dedication of additional state general fund money to fund transportation needs. So the CAC is recommending that the board approve a motion supporting it. And if you do that, please give me some direction on how you want it supported, I would implement your support.
Any comments? Any
I think we should support. This is the general fund, right? Use.
state general fund, taking it out of the state general fund? I agree. So all in favor of issuing some
motion?
support?
Do you need a
And
motion?
need a motion.
I so move.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A letter?
Okay?
You guys okay with the letter?
I would say a letter.
Okay, thank you. There's another bill that our attorney, Jennifer Ivey, suggested that we discuss. It's Senate Bill 138. It's regarding construction contract bonding, which would impact our member governments. It's, the summary is just 2 sentences. And Jennifer, do you want to speak to it at all? No, since you wrote me an email.
Essentially, the gist of this bill is that it gets at private, I'm buying time for other Jennifer to get up here if she wants to, is that it goes to public-private partnerships, which were falling between the cracks in contracting. If you're using private money on public property, you can't lien the public property, but the private entities aren't subject to the payment and performance bonding requirements. So that's what the sponsor is getting at with this. They want to make sure that those type of public-private partnerships are also subject to the payment and performance bonds, so the subcontractors aren't getting left without getting paid. I actually worked with the sponsor through some other entities that I work with to get some amendments made, which have not been are not on the introduced version, but it does add some legislative intent to clarify that, because the way it's drafted is a little bit broad, because they don't want to put a definition of what a private-public partnership is into statute, because there's a lot of pushback on that. So as I expect it will be passed, in the form I expect it will be passed, I don't think it will have a large impact on the member governments, but some, possibly.
Do you have anything that you wanted to say, other?
Jennifer Irving, County Engineer. I wish I could pull up my email because it was a lot more eloquent. But essentially, we don't see any coordinated with the county attorney and also some other internal departments within the county. And we don't see any significant impact to the county projects related to RTA. What we do anticipate is that if this bill does go through, that we would have some consideration for how we do our work in the right-of-way permits and also how we deal with our subdivision requirements and the bonding for that. So
improving for us?
Pardon?
Improving for us? Improving the situation for us?
Or are we making it harder for people to do business?
I think it really is, we already require bonding and insurance on our work in the right-of-way permits. We may need to adjust that and go to a lower level. We only do that on a certain level of work and above. That would require some additional requirements within our engineering criteria manual for those private entities who are doing work within the public right-of-way within El Paso County. And it depends on what the end result of the bill is, because I do know that there are some amendments being added to that bill.
And are you suggesting we do anything today on this? Is it just
No.
information?
It's just information.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Did you want to address this?
Just real quickly on the Capitol, on Senate Bill 51, I think a letter is probably the best course of action that you chose, because I think it's important to note there is still no House sponsor on the bill, and it's been parked in committee since the 8th of January and hasn't had a hearing yet. So I don't think it's where you're going to want to spend a lot of political capital on that. So just a note for that. And this month, of course, they're very busy with the death penalty, the red flag bill, and the budget and oil and gas. So I wouldn't expend a lot of political capital on that one.
Terrific. Rick, item number 11 is an approval item. System is an approval item, which is the IGA, the
So
modified IGA.
I can take 10, 11, and 12 in 2 minutes.
Then
I have no need for an executive session unless the board would like to convene into one. Item 11, the third amended and restated IGA has been unanimously approved by the county, the city of Manitou Springs, and the town of Green Mountain Falls. The town of Rama failed to get a quorum because of weather last week, and then at the rescheduled, they're now rescheduled for March 20th, which is this Wednesday. And the city of Colorado Springs is scheduled for March 28th. Bev reported at this point we have, I think it was $3.6 million that would be going to, I lost that piece of paper, to CDOT. So we're in good shape for a multi-year funding, it looks like, unless RAMA or the City of Colorado Springs fails to approve. And item 12, we should all rejoice. The Supreme Court denied certiorari. We will not have an appeal to the Walmart litigation, so that is final.
All right.
So is there a motion to approve the report, or just?
There's no approval.
There's nothing to
approve. I'm just giving you, since I had proof next to them.
All right, and you needed to leave too, is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes.
So we will proceed with informational stuff outside of, without a quorum, and is there an objection to allowing our attorney to leave?
No, we ought to make her stay here. Just to meet me, we ought to do that.
Just because you were so nice by not making me drive down last Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that stubborn today.
Okay. And Mr. Blewett, we're back to you. I think, correct? Yes.
Hi, board members. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. I'll make my presentation brief. So local route traffic, fixed route ridership stayed about the same, and same could be said for Vanpool. The ADA service actually had almost an 8% reduction for the month of January, and that is explained by snow days for day programs. So a lot of folks with people with disabilities go to day programs during the day, and they'll close because of weather more often than other places do. And actually, 46% of our ridership are trips to day programs. And so those snow days do impact our ridership numbers. That's really all I have. Last week's blizzard was fun. So.
I actually have, I spoke with a gentleman earlier today that I'm going to be putting in touch with you. The gentleman is very interested in setting up the last mile program as supplemented from private funds. So I will.
Great.
Yes, I'll get back to you on that.
Sounds great. Thanks.
8B, PPRTA, is that, yeah, PPRTA 1 capital projects update. Do we have any update okay, there is none. 8C, Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report. Anything, are you mic'd out, Mike?
Any questions on that?
Any questions?
The CAC had none.
And I didn't see anybody have any questions. All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
9B, the CDOT I-25 gap project update.
The red ink items are the new ones since last month. No major changes.
Any questions on the red line? All right. And then 9C, quarterly reports from member governments. They were in your packet. Did everybody get a chance to review them? Any questions, concerns, comments?
Okay.
Then we are to item 13, adjournment. Wow. That was fast. Thank you.
No, it wasn't. That 1 hour was really tough.
It was tough. It was tough. All right, and I got to sign some things, right?
Yeah, before you cousins.
I said there was no public.